All right. Welcome, everyone. Good morning, afternoon, or evening. Thank you for joining us today for Stable Stories. Stable Stories is a video series that explores the behind-the-scenes experiences, learnings, and insights of builders pioneering in the stablecoin industry. Today, we have Ryan Rodenbaugh, the founder of Vaults.fyi. Thank you so much for coming in today, Ryan. How's it going?
Thanks for having me. I'm usually on the other side of the mic, so it's cool to be the guest.
Very nice. Yeah, we had a little bit of a chat about podcasts and different strategies before we jumped on. So yeah, it's a good time. Amazing. Well, we may as well just jump right in, kick things off. Every week when we interview Stable Stories guests, we like to start things with a little bit of background on you, your history, and how you came to stablecoins in the first place. So if you remember, what was your first experience with stablecoins? What did you do? How did you feel? Anything there would be great.
Yeah, I don't remember the first time I actually used a stablecoin, but I think it must have been sometime in 2018. Yeah, and just kind of, I guess, as a bit of background, my first kind of real job in crypto, I worked at a company called TrustToken, and I joined them back in March of 2018, right before they launched TUSD, which has a history after I left it, but at the time at least was, I mean, probably the third stablecoin in the market behind Tether and DAI. So I think it probably would have been sometime around there that I did something with TUSD, but I can't remember what.
Very, very cool. Yeah, so you go back with stablecoins.
I do, and it's interesting because obviously now stablecoins are very sexy and exciting. You obviously have Circle's IPO and things like Plasma, and stablecoins are kind of what everyone's talking about. But I guess my sort of entry to stablecoins was a bit odd in that, I was actually really interested in this idea of the tokenization of real world assets, like bringing non-blockchain native assets onto a blockchain. And at the time, like 2017, 2018, when I was looking into that, stablecoins were the only thing that really had any kind of modicum of success, or like is and really kind of still is like the first natural step into that tokenization of off-chain assets. And so when I was looking around at the time, there was obviously Tether, which had a much worse reputation than it does today. DAI and single collateral DAI was just beginning to launch. And I think, if I'm being totally honest, I didn't get it at the time. Like, I didn't understand why someone would want to post these collateral assets to borrow against them. And then, I came across TrustToken and TUSD. I think they announced the project in like January of 2018 and sent them lots of emails until they hired me eventually.
Amazing. Yeah, persistence pays off. It's very interesting that digital assets seem to be like ripe for tokenization, in the same way that I think AI is in the process of consuming a lot of service level jobs that don't require physical input. Yeah, it's a little more difficult to tokenize the real world assets that physically exist in the real world. And I think that that's going to be something that eventually evolves after all of the digital real world assets are brought on chain.
I agree. And I think what makes different kinds of real world assets so different is how fungible they are and how quickly they can be redeemed back into the underlying. So what makes stablecoins so great is that, if you hold a stablecoin on chain and it depegs from its value, whether it goes down or goes up, if it goes, either way, you should be able to either redeem the asset. And so if it's trading below peg, you go out and buy a bunch and then go redeem it for $1. And if it's trading above peg, you mint a bunch and you sell it for over $1. And so it's got this great mechanism to kind of keep it at peg. And, I think everyone has accepted that these things work well. And that doesn't translate as well to non-fungible real world assets, like a share of private credit, a private credit fund, or a piece of real estate. They don't have that same redeemability quality. And just the, really what you're relying on in a lot of these cases is sort of a legal agreement that, it will be honored if in some case down the road you need to redeem it. So there's just a lot more complexity with other types of assets.
Certainly. And not to get too far off on a tangent, I always thought the most interesting solve was when a real world asset based project comes out with a solution for effective custody of a fractionalized asset, right? I come from hospitality in another life, and I think I've read about 40 different stories over the course of the last 5 years about high-end scotches or artwork being fractionalized, put on chain. And I just keep going back to like, where's the meatware, the middleware that actually takes custody of these assets and ensures provenance and distributes, go in on a bottle of scotch with your friends. How do you get that? Right.
Totally. Right. I mean, a bottle of scotch is not particularly interesting, maybe as a tokenized asset. I don't know. Maybe there's great sort of appreciation value, but I think the pleasure is sort of maybe enjoying the scotch. So
yeah,
a bit different.
It's it was just top of mind because I read recently about.
No, of course, but I've seen people do the same. So I also always kind of question these things a bit.
So interesting. Awesome. So how did we go from that to Vaults.fyi?
Well, there's a very long journey there. I guess the intervening period is, worked on TUSD for a few years, right? We launched in March of 2018. Again, just to even paint the picture of what things were like then, USDC not only didn't exist, but wasn't even announced. PAX, GUSD, none of these things existed yet. So spent a lot of time working on like educating people on stablecoins, only to kind of get crushed by USDC and the distribution that they opened up through Coinbase. We eventually sold TUSD to a particular individual in crypto, Justin, and then went on to launch TruFi with the TrustToken company, kind of DAO, spun that all out. That was actually one of the first attempts at on-chain credit and uncollateralized lending. So still sort of in this bucket of RWAs. And then left there in 2022 feeling, I'd say like particularly burned out on the idea of some of these RWAs and like credit and bringing these off-chain assets on-chain. And linked up with a bunch of people previously from that company that I'd gotten to know. Started our current company, which is actually called Wallfacer Labs. And we're originally planning to be like full-time DAO contributors. So active in governance and things like that. And within like the first 2 months, kind of stumbled on the idea for Vaults.fyi, where we initially started out with just, we were trying to build this very simple kind of rebalancing product between Aave and compound yields, and found that the on-chain data that we were able to get from different APIs or even from front ends didn't feel completely accurate to reflect what a user would actually earn when they were sitting in these different yield generating positions. And so originally built Vaults.fyi just as a better source of data for on-chain APYs. And since then, we've kind of let the market continue to pull things out of us. So we've launched a set of APIs so that other firms can ingest our data, which is now like lots of stuff beyond just simple APY data as well. And then have a whole transactional interface. So app.vaults.fyi, we actually build adapters and direct integrations into all of these protocols so that users can have one hub to manage positions across Aave, Compound, Morpho, Lido, down the list of all these great protocols, and just trying to increase users' ability to be able to earn on chain.
Amazing. Wondering if you can double click a little bit into some of the friction points you noted earlier on about the data coming out from the protocols and the yield that you would be, the perceived yield versus the actual output on the other side of it. Because I think that us in the crypto space, we're very, very comfortable with the friction points of traditional finance and the difficulties of putting your money to work through those rails. But I think maybe there's value in exploring what we have been building up until this time and the difficulties around that.
Yeah, so I guess I can take that from two angles. One, kind of from the data perspective. So, the original version of our product was just a homepage to compare yields across many different protocols. And at first, that was just Aave, Compound, Lido, maybe one or two others. And the original kind of slide I had when I was even just making this presentation was, Aave is an excellent protocol. But if you go to their front end website today, even to compare the Aave USDC yield across Base, Optimism, Arbitrum, Ethereum, all the different chains they support is like 15 clicks to compare every chain on Aave's website, just to find all the different USDC yields. So I think we were starting from a place of how do we just make it easier to figure out where the best yields are to begin with? So that's kind of where we began. And I think what we've learned along the way is that in both the discovery process, but also the actual transacting process across all of these protocols, there's still so much difficulty. So, for example, one of the more recent kind of, I don't know if you want to say trends, but sort of design patterns in a lot of protocols have been withdrawal queues. So maybe there's up to 2 day delay before you can actually get your funds out. These are sort of non-standard things that a new user of some of these protocols might not be accustomed to, and that we try to make the effort to call out and make sure that all of these things are flagged, both in our APIs if someone's integrating, but then through our front ends as well. So, we've really been focused on these kind of discovery challenges that I think the industry still faces, because I think the industry comes a lot of times from a place of focusing on the backend infrastructure, focusing on security, and maybe letting some of the design and sort of discovery fall a bit to the wayside.
Yeah. It's very easy to get lost in our own sauce and think that because we're familiar with specific UX design patterns that may be a function of technology just not being there yet, that others will adapt to it. But yeah, I think that makes total sense. The UX component as well. Could you speak to me a little bit more about how you came to that decision, how to really focus on building the UX front end versus just improving the back end and making the data more available solely?
Yeah, I think the place we've come from with a lot of what we do is, our team is very technically focused. I would say actually, like, by background, none of us are, particularly like design forward people. Right? I think it's been a learned skill for most of our team, but besides our actual designer. And so our team does spend a lot of time on the detail and the infrastructure and like, how do you actually integrate with all of these protocols? How do you make sure that you're serving high quality data? So we do spend a lot of time there. I think at the same time, we have always found that the best way to kind of show off and demonstrate our infrastructure and our APIs have been through these different front end experiences. So our original site, like I mentioned, was this analytics.vaults.fyi, just a quick page to compare yields and then get all of these detailed breakdowns of their TVL, APY history, breakdown of rewards versus base APY. And we've kind of just let people pull things out of us. So the one thing that we heard quite often from people was that they like the site, but still the process of then, going on our site and discovering a Morpho APY or discovering an Aave APY, and then having to go to their site, re-navigate a new site, connect wallet, jump between Morpho and Aave and Lido's website, and all these different places was cumbersome. So we launched app.vaults.fyi to again kind of streamline that whole process, where now you can connect a wallet through our site and entirely non-custodially manage your position across dozens of protocols in one place. So that's actually something that we find, I don't really think there is another product that has recreated that as well. And a big part of that is actually integrating all of these protocols in one place is extremely difficult. I mean, that is where we spend the large kind of bulk of our time. And I think to the extent that we have kind of discovered or built any sort of secret sauce, it really is in our ability to integrate all of these protocols, be aware of the edge cases to expect, and make sure that we can deliver a great experience to users. And I guess just, one other thing I'd kind of flag there is the other thing we keep hearing from people is, yes, the desktop experience works great, but there's a lot of users on mobile as well. And so we've been starting to do some stuff there. Just last month, we launched a mini app on WorldCoin through their World wallet. We've seen insane growth on that. I mean, I think the stats, if you look at just the WorldCoin app, is maybe 60,000 verified users have interacted with it, including non-orb verified people, well over 100,000. So I think there is a lot of demand for these experiences that make interacting with DeFi more integrated and more seamless.
That's exactly right. And maybe we can discuss a little bit more about that learning generally for the stablecoin and Web3 space. I think everyone has internalized the idea that stablecoins are moving up and to the right, crypto's first, killer use case, next billion users. What do we need to be thinking about when we're building products for those users, and how we should be meeting them, like where they are, right?
Yeah, so that is almost like the overarching thesis of kind of what we're doing at Vaults with the APIs specifically, and I'll sort of differentiate the two a bit. I mean, our big belief is that every fintech and especially crypto product and wallet is going to have on-chain earn and yield integrated as a core part of the product experience. Very much in the same way that today, if you go to any crypto wallet, swaps are a native embedded experience within the wallet. It would be strange if you went to a modern crypto wallet and they made you connect to, 1inch's desktop website. Like, it's just going to be embedded natively in the wallet, and the wallet's, monetized that way as well.
Mm-hmm.
We view the same thing is going to happen with Earn. Like, our APIs make it very easy for any non-custodial wallet or custodial wallet to integrate our single API and then give their users access to hundreds of different on-chain earn opportunities across different assets, whether that's stable coins or ETH or wrapped Bitcoin or down the list of things. So that's how we kind of view our positioning there. Now, I think what we have found is that kind of to what I said earlier, with a lot of these cases, we find it just much easier to be able to sort of show rather than tell. And so that's why we keep launching a lot of these product experiences of our own. We can, until we're blue in the face, pitch different wallets on why they should integrate these opportunities. But if we can just show our mini app, which is super streamlined, as easy as can be, has over 100,000 users, and say, hey, you already have 100,000 users in your wallet, let's bring this functionality to them, and you can open up a new revenue line as well by charging either on a deposit or performance, or we make all of those things extremely straightforward through our API.
Makes sense. Maybe we should switch over to the back end a little bit,
Sure.
The API. Could you give me a little insight about how you think about what protocols to integrate and pull into the data stream?
Yes. So I guess where we began is it was as subjective as humanly possible. It was just like our taste of what protocols do we think are good and safe, and would we recommend to our friends or family, and let's integrate those. And that was probably like the first 10 or 15 things that we integrated. Mm-hmm. And then people started discovering the site. Protocol teams started asking to get added to the site. We started having paying customers for the API. We started having users of the app. And so at this point, we're pretty request driven. If someone is a customer of the API, they have a protocol that they want to integrate, whether from a data perspective or a transactional perspective. That is generally how we prioritize things. There's also times, though, where we'll see an exciting new protocol get launched. It seems to have good audits. It seems to have good excitement around it. And we do want to try and be early supporters of things like that because it's good for our sort of awareness as well. A recent example is maybe something like Cap Money. We don't have them live yet, but we have them on our upcoming, probably in the next 1 or 2 sprints, just because it's an exciting protocol. It's got a good APY. Like, we do want to be on top of things like that as well.
Makes sense. Yeah, love the Cap Money guys too. Fantastic project. I'm excited to see where that one goes. So you sort of laid out a parallel between the embedding of the DEX experience directly into the wallet with what you're trying to achieve with Vaults.fyi, which is embedding optimized yield opportunities within wallet and interfaces as well. Where do you see the next sort of 6 to 12 months headed for Vaults.fyi? What are you excited about that comes next?
Yeah, we have a few things in the pipeline. Probably the number one thing I am excited about is actually, when will this podcast come out?
We're probably looking 2 to 3 weeks from now.
Okay, just in case.
Just to give everyone context, this is August 19th.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully on the week of August 25th, we have a very big partner who will be launching sort of a deeply embedded experience for their ecosystem powered by our APIs. And we think that will really be like one of the best examples we can show where someone has said, hey, we have an ecosystem of opportunities for our layer 1, layer 2, and we want to be able to highlight all of these in a deeply integrated product experience where a user just connects a wallet and it can move from one to the other extremely seamlessly. This is the kind of like beautiful product experience that we want to help these different wallets and interfaces build for their users. We ultimately think that what makes kind of our API so great is that we're doing the heavy lift of integrating all of these things. So I think what we see today is a lot of wallets will make like one single integration into one pool or one vault for their users. And we think actually like where we sit today is that there's so many choices within DeFi and there's so many things that are kind of getting mature that I think users want choice. Maybe today they want, this period of time, they want a higher yielding opportunity for their USDC. Maybe they want a more conservative opportunity. Maybe they want some sort of rebalancing opportunity. We want to kind of connect all of these things and give users really that choice. So I think I answered your question okay there.
No, you did great.
Great, yeah. I was just going to say just one more thing. I was going to say the other thing that we're really excited about are some more of these mini apps. So I think we've been really blown away at the sort of positive reception that we've gotten from the WorldCoin mini app. There's a lot of other wallets that are going down this mini app path rather than sort of the embedded experience path. And so we're going to be exploring more of these as well. And, kind of to the point mentioned earlier, just trying to meet the users wherever they are.
Yeah, makes total sense. A follow-on question to the first point that you made.
Yeah.
How do you think about walking the line between abstracting away the complexities of offering yields, generating options, but also giving the user sufficient option to structure their positions in the way that they want to? So I guess the question is like, on the one end of the spectrum, you have, optimized yield generation, one-click deploy, things rebalance, and off they go. On the other side of the spectrum, you've got protocol options, pool options, and a bunch of different metrics that you can, meters that you can play with, right? How are you sort of like deciding where and when the complexity versus the simplicity is the ideal trade-off for the user?
Well, I guess something kind of related to an earlier question of yours about what types of products we tend to integrate. So generally speaking, while today we have gone farther out the risk spectrum of, integrating more protocols that have higher levels of risk than say an Aave or a Compound, we do also take the approach of generally integrating what I'd call like simple earn. So single asset earn opportunities. Mm-hmm. So today we don't have like, Uniswap pools that have impermanent loss risk. We don't yet have things like GLP, HLP, or like these perpetuals, market maker lending pools. We have things that are like lending, staking, and yield aggregation, which I'd say are probably on the easier to understand buckets. Now, within all of that, you can have a lot of nuance. So for example, one Morpho pool that lends against, or one Morpho vault that has collateral types of like ETH and staked ETH and WE ETH is going to be probably a lot safer than say a smaller pool where maybe the deposit asset is a newer stable coin and it's lending against, like, I don't know, market maker lending vault or something like that. So you can certainly have a risk spectrum within each of these protocols individually. Now, the way that we try to handle this is we have a reputation score that both on the API and if you go to app.vaults.fyi will appear on each individual page that isn't a risk score, but tries to take into account kind of the lendiness of both the vault, the protocol, the number of holders as sort of a proxy for distribution and quality, and some other factors as well, just to say, hey, here is at least a first pass of, as a user, how you can maybe start to think about some of the risks that may be involved here. And then from the perspective of people who integrate our APIs, they're able to show as many or as few of the opportunities we feature as they like. So if you're a wallet that wants to show only 4 or 5 USDC lending opportunities over 100 million in TVL, you can very easily filter that out through our API. But if you want to show, $100,000 TVL pools that have 50% APYs, we have those available as well, and you can show those too. So we try not to be too judgmental on that and just present as many things as we can and allow it to either the integrators or sort of the users to make their own decisions.
Fantastic. Makes a lot of sense. Great. Well, we are coming up on the bottom of the hour. Anything else that you want to add? If people want to learn more about Vaults.fyi, where can they find you?
Yeah, well, you can find us on Twitter at Vaults.fyi, VAULTS.fyi. And I'd love it if you guys would check out the site. So that's app.vaults.fyi. You can connect a wallet and then try managing positions across all these different protocols. Again, entirely non-custodial. There's no additional smart contract risk. And if you use a wallet like Rabby or something where you get transaction simulation, you'll see the exact same transactions as if you went to Fluid or Morpho or Aave's website directly. So, and then if you're a developer and you're interested in our APIs, you can go to docs.vaults.fyi and find me on Twitter. My Telegram handle's there as well. I'm very accessible.
Amazing. For what it's worth, I love products like this that aggregate and abstract the complexity of blockchain so that people can make money work better for them. It was the kind of the core original thesis, right? Thank you for joining, Ryan. It's been a great day. Again, Vaults.fyi. It's been Stable Stories. Everyone enjoy the rest of your week. Have a good one.
Cool. Thank you.